welcome to another video by yours truly, Caleb S. Holmberg. Today, I've got a couple new controllers to do a little review and unboxing and disassembly and reassembly. This is going to be probably a bit of a longer video, so I will have it divided into chapters, just in case you guys want to skip ahead, which is perfectly fine if you only want to watch a certain part of the video. So anyway, this is the Hyperkin Captain controller for premium controller for the Nintendo 64. Yeah, let me just show you that real quick. This is the box. I've got a couple here. They come in some fun colors. You've got the this is Wario and Waluigi that I've got here, which I thought it was pretty cool that they had that. Don't see that very often. So let's take our Waluigi controller and just check it out. 10-foot cable. So it's basically, from what I can tell, just an N64 controller. It does look like on the box they have an updated joystick, kind of like I've done a video in the past. That was my first video on this channel. Was how to replace Nintendo 64 controller joystick. That's still up, but this looks like one of the ones that I have used ever since then. One of those new style GameCube joysticks, which I do like. They're not. I mean, when you're playing, they're not quite as. They don't have nearly the same feel, but I've come to embrace it. So let's just open up this box and see what we got. I did do a review of one other Hyperkin controller. That was the Admiral for the N64. That was an okay controller, so I'm hoping this is going to be pretty good too. Alright, so set the box aside. Got some random stuff here. Okay. Alright, so here it is. Got some plastic packaging material here, and wow. Okay, alright. So, let me just set all this stuff aside real quick. And you saw I held that in my hand for just a second. And I'm having some initial first impressions here. Everything feels very tight. I will say that. Nothing's shaking around. There's no there's not a lot of there's no shakiness about this thing. It feels very solid. Definitely not not industrial. Well, I don't know about industrial, but it's the plastic that is used to construct the shell of this controller is not as good quality as the original N64 controller, but that's to be expected. That's nothing, no shock to me. But, well, first off, I'm going to talk about a little bit what I think how this looks. It's a really nice looking controller, I will say that. It looks like an N64 controller. It obviously they've used their own sort of mold. It's a different. You can see it's got like the little, I don't know what do you call that, grating detail up on the top there, and the Hyperkin logo, which looks nice. And it's nice looking. Nothing wrong with how it looks, but when you hold it in your hand, you can tell if you compare the original N64 controller, it's a lot different. It's a lot different feeling in your hand. Okay, and I'm gonna say the buttons do feel, well, I'm not really sure. I would really have to play with this, which I'm gonna do in a little bit, but the buttons feel just a slight bit clicky. Which if you've watched this channel before, I'm not a big fan of buttons that click a lot. I want it to just kind of take very little effort to press it down. I usually kind of go to the original Nintendo controller, the OEM controller, and that's kind of my baseline for how kind of I don't know, kind of the standard that I measure these third-party controllers to. But anyway, we've got the memory pack or expansion port there on the back. I guess it's not really expansion. That's for all the different accessories. Rumble pack, transfer pack for you. I guess that would be for Pokemon. I've never played Pokemon, so if I'm talking nonsense, yeah, bear with me. So yeah, it's an N64 controller. Nothing crazy. You can see the joystick is definitely updated. Let me just focus that real quick. I don't really need to, but I'm gonna. Yep, you can see that. So that's pretty much it. I am going to take the little tie off of the cord here, and let me just see how long this. Okay, so you can't see it right now. Let me just. But I will say, this cord is long boy. This is a long boy type cord. So, and that's one area where the original N64 controller was pretty lacking. Was it had like 5 foot? It was like half. The cord was like half as long as this one, which is this is a very nice length. It'll be yeah. I'm not kind of struggling to come up with words today, but yeah, that's that. I'm noticing some little. I don't know if you can see that, but you see those little smudges up above the logo there? I don't know. Could be just something went wrong with the machine or mold that they were using or something. I don't know. But so that's all I have to say about the ergonomics. Ergonomically, it feels comfortable in my hands. I've really nothing more to say about it. It's about on par with the original N64 controller in that regard, other than the plastic is a little bit cheaper feeling. So, why don't I hook this up and give it a test run with my old standby Super Mario 64. Oh, sorry guys, you almost saw my face. I mean, I'm not really afraid of I'm not really concerned about people seeing my face in my videos. I mean, I don't really need to do a face reveal. Did a face reveal that was Mario 64 isn't personalized video. I mean, ever since then, you probably wouldn't want to see my face right now because after that video, some things happened, and I don't want to get into it, but really, oops, sorry about that. It's hard for me to hit the right button on this little monitor here. Alright, so let me just fool around with this for a second and I will get right back to you. Alright, let's power it on and see what happens. Gotta plug the controller in, of course. I wonder if that audio is coming in. Yeah, good enough for me. Alright, so no controller. Excuse me. Let me just reset real quick. I did plug the controller in. Alright, so we start up and wow. This is already feeling pretty responsive. Let me just pick my file here. And let's see how this thing works. I'm just gonna play around for a while and tell you what I think once I get done. Yeah, you know what? This is feeling like a good controller as far as I can tell right now. Nothing really jumping out at me that screams I'm a bad controller. All the buttons seem to work, which is the first step, but do they feel good? I mean, yeah, they feel good. I don't know, there's something, like I said before, this controller, everything about this controller is very very rigid, I guess. There's really no I don't know really how to explain it, but it feels it just feels very solid and very tight, everything about it, which is, I guess, a good thing. Oops. But yeah, it's a good controller. It was let me think about that now. It was like $18. I will. It wasn't Amazon that I got it. It was some little marketplace. You got to be careful where you buy these things, because some of the websites you come across, like, I don't know, it can get a little bit. You can get into some not so good stuff, like people who just scammers out there. But the website I got these on is well, they sent the controllers, and I got a good deal on them. So I will put a link in the description for this video to the place where I purchased these. But so far so good. I kind of run out of things to say while I'm doing these gameplay demos for these controllers. I don't really see. That's the thing, though. Okay, so I need to correct something. I have to apologize for something I said in one of my previous videos. I realized that I was not really thinking. This game does not use all of the this game doesn't use all of the inputs from the controller. It doesn't register. Wait, no, it doesn't. It doesn't register any input from the directional pad, nor does it register any input from the L button. So I lied about that. The big Mario game on each system does not always use all the buttons on a controller. So sorry about that. Just thought I had to come clean of that error. Anyway, so running around the castle here, and I have nothing else to say about this controller. It feels good, and I recommend it. So I recommend this controller if you're not willing to. Well, it is a bargain compared to getting the N64 controller and upgrading this, or I guess I'm not going to say upgrading. That's not an objective thing. It's not always an upgrade for everyone, because not everybody likes it the same to upgrade to the GameCube style joystick. But I would call this a deal if you would rather get it and be done with it than have to repair replace the joystick on the original controller, which would be a little more expensive and a little more labor intensive. But then again, you'd have that much more experience, which isn't always that's sometimes a good thing. But then again, there's the cost of it, which you have to consider. So these are like I said, I think just under $20. And they're, yeah, I'd say if you want to get a couple good quality, decent N64 controllers, yeah, go ahead and buy them. They're good. And then there's you also would have to consider like whether you want to get something else that is a different layout from this, because this is the traditional 3-prong N64 layout, controller layout, and they do have options out there for different style controllers. But yeah, this is good for what it is, and I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. Buy this controller if you want an N64 controller, and that where the stick isn't gonna break down over a short period of time, and if you want a controller that you won't have to really make any upgrades to in order to keep it in that state. So that is all I have for the review / unboxing portion of the video. For the next portion, I am going to be working with the Wario controller. Yeah, I don't want to leave him out. So, and hopefully that doesn't cause the game to go into any sort of I don't know. You never know when you combine Wario with any sort of, well, you guys know what I'm getting at. I've had some experiences, and I can tell you that you should be careful trying out new hardware on the N64. It's can get a bit there's some funky stuff that can happen if you're playing Mario 64, and don't really know what you're doing. You don't want to. I guess you just don't want to go into it. Yeah. Okay. I gotta stop talking about this stuff. So let's. I'm gonna cut it here and get back to you in about 2 seconds. Alright, so I got the Wario controller all unboxed and ready for the disassembly. And it's looking like you don't need anything special to take this thing apart. All you need is Phillips smallish, I'm going to say smallish Phillips head screwdriver. And that should be all that you need. Let me just find out if what I'm saying is true. Mind you, I've never disassembled one of these before in my life, so if I make a terrible mistake, then, well, I don't really know what'll happen, but I'm just gonna warn you ahead of time. I may make a terrible mistake and mess this whole thing up. But aside from that, let's just take all these screws out the back here and see what this thing is all about on the inside. All right. Now there's, as is the case with the OEM N64 controller, there's 2 screws in here in the peripheral port that you need to get to. They're a little tricky. Well, I guess they're harder to get screwed back in there than they are to get out. But just take those 2 out. Don't forget them, and you should be good to pull the back off of this thing. Although it is not the original N64 controller, so you never know what to expect. But I'm expecting it to be quite similar in design. Because, let's face it, the original N64 controller was designed very well. And I don't see why anyone would not want to imitate that. So anyway, let's just try and pull the back off of this, and it comes right off. Just as I expected, the back comes off, and the Z trigger is connected. And I'm not going to take that off right now. You know what, actually, you can just pop this off. I'm not going to. It comes right off. Let me just show you. Or it should. Let me see if I can get it. Oh yeah, it comes right off if you just lift it out. So if you want to take that out, you can. It's not hard. Okay. So now we have the front of the controller, which, let's face it, it looks like an N64 controller almost exactly. It's just a little bit different colors. Let's take the L and R buttons out. Those just slide right out of there. I can pull these little contact things, little boards out of there, little holders. I use the word little a lot. But anyway, you can take this this whole main board out of here, I think. Yep, that just kind of snaps right out. Just be careful, like, every time you're pulling something out, do it pretty gently and gradually, just so that you don't break anything. If you hear something crack or snap, stop what you're doing and put the thing down and look at it all over to make sure you know what you just broke. So, also, if you want to take the joystick box out, this is the module that holds the joysticks, which is I like how the N64 controller is built. It's very well designed for maintenance. You can take it right apart and replace the joystick without having to do any soldering, which, although this controller you would have to desolder, because if you want to separate this from this, you would have to just lift this out of here. You'd have to get rid of all these solder points here and just pull this out, which you could do. But one thing I would advise is to make sure that you keep track of where each of these wires went to, because if I was to desolder all those, I probably would forget, and then I'd go to put it back together, and then I don't know, put it back together and then try and play the game, and I try to move, and then he just, like, Mario just starts to do a break dance or something. That's probably what would happen. I feel like that did happen once, but won't get into that. Anyway, so this is the joystick box. Nothing too fancy, and it looks like, oh, I think I know how they I think I know that what they did to get this new style joystick in here. There's a little tab you see that was snipped off there. Just zoom that in, focus it. So I think this piece, this joystick module piece, had 3 tabs with like screw holes to screw it in and fasten it down. I think what they did was they just snipped 2 of those off so it fits. Which, I mean, hey, that works for you and it's still solid. That's fine. So anyway, this is the main board. Nothing really too much to say about this. This is the cable that connects to the controller. So really, this is the controller. This is like the brain of the controller. I mean, this board right here is the controller. This is really all it is. It just has a bunch of stuff branching out from it and that goes to it. So look at the front. We have the buttons. I'm not going to pull them all out right now. We have the D-pad. They all just come out and go in. It's pretty. Let me just take one out. And yeah, it's like most N64 controllers and most Nintendo controllers in general. They've foolproofed it so you can't put a button in the wrong place when you're putting this thing back together, which is a very very smart thing to do. And I noticed one thing that is different on this than the original controller is. On the original, you had these 4 contacts. This pad here, this rubber pad here, and this rubber pad were the same piece. They were connected, and that's that's kind of nice here, because with this, you don't have to worry about what orientation you need to put that in. You can just, it doesn't need to be turned a specific way. You just put it in this way. But then again, there are 2 pieces, and that takes longer. So, yeah, it's whatever. It is what it is, and nothing I can do to change that. So that's basically the inner workings of this controller. Nothing really out of the ordinary for me for this channel. So I think I am just going to put this back together and make sure it also works, because I don't want to have a Waluigi controller that works and a Wario controller that doesn't. That just wouldn't make any sense. That would just wouldn't work. That wouldn't be right. So now just do everything you did before backwards. Just slide this thing right in where it was. Sometimes it's a little tricky to fit everything back in, but hey. Okay, that clicked into place. Sorry, I gotta make sure I'm showing everything I do on camera. Sorry, I'm apologizing too much. Man, these are a little bit tricksy. Okay, but they do go in. These L&R boards. I don't know if I'd call them boards. They're like little mini boards. There's probably a word for that in the electronics dictionary, if that's a thing. If there's any electronics people out there, please tell me. I am willing to learn from you because I have great respect for you. Alright, got those in there. Let's just make sure we screw this down. And make sure you don't put this little screw for the joystick module in with the rest of the screws for the the back of the controller because, well, I guess you can tell it apart, but I always feel like it just feels a lot better to me to organize the screws that I take out of a controller. One mistake that I've made is using a non-magnetized screwdriver for this. Would probably save me a lot of time to get a magnet one, but that's for later on. Make sure everything is back in place. Sometimes when you take these things apart, things just get out of whack. You got to make sure they're back. Alright, I'm going to put the triggers back in. Well, first I'm going to make sure the cable is back where it should be. And these cables can be kind of tricky too. Just getting them to go back to their rightful place in time and space. Okay, the R is going to go on the left when you're looking at it like this, and the L is going to go on the right when you're looking at it like this. Okay, and then just slap this back cover back onto the controller, and this Z trigger is sort of flopping around and kind of getting in the way, which is a bit annoying, but I think I should be able to, okay, well this could be a bit of a problem. You'll notice that whenever I flip this upside this way, that just falls in, so you can kind of, let's see if I can kind of hold it, and, okay, yeah, I can kind of hold on to that and make sure it stays up while I try and drop this on. Oh, this is going to be frustrating. I apologize, people, if I... No, wait, this will work, this will work. Yeah, there we go. Alright. And make sure you can get it on, and okay, that seemed pretty well on there. And now let's put the screws back in, just back the way they were. Alright, and that does it for the disassembly and reassembly, the dissection of the Wario controller. Okay, and let me just hook this up and see, and make sure it runs as it should. Plug it into my N64 console that I have right here, just out of your view. Alright, and this one seems to work too. One thing I will say as a closing note is that they must have adjusted something on this joystick from how it was originally, if they're getting the same part that I got to replace the original N64 joystick. I don't know, maybe they're manufacturing their own, but based on the fact that they've snipped off a couple of tabs, it kind of tells me that they got it from another company, that part for their controller. But anyway, regardless of that, it feels like they must have adjusted something, because this has a much smaller, if even existent, dead zone than the part that I've gotten to repair my N64 controllers, because this just feels extremely responsive, and It just feels exactly the way it should. The joystick does anyway. Everything else does too. It's just kind of a millistep down from the original controller in quality. I'd say just the quality of it is slightly reduced from the original. Other than that, I would say it's worth saving a couple bucks and getting the whole deal. I mean, if you're concerned about it being not official Nintendo material, I guess I can understand that. But I'm not personally. I don't think I would even care. But if you do, that's fine. Go for the original controller. It's not that much more expensive. But especially if you're not concerned about replacing the joystick. If you're not, then go for the original because that'll be a lot cheaper for you. Just find one with. Make sure you find one with a tight joystick on the original controller because that's really a big one thing you just don't want to get is a wobbly joystick. That's not going to give you very accurate gameplay. It's going to be sloppy, and that's something this controller doesn't have any sort of issue with. It just feels very accurate, and that's something obviously that, I mean, yeah, this is the first time I've ever used this controller, so who knows down the road if I end up playing with this thing, whether or not it'll still hold up after a few months. But anyway, that is about it that about covers the Hyperkin Captain Premium and Nintendo 64 controller for the Nintendo 64. I guess that's a bit redundant, but I said it, so I'm going to stick with it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope it's been a little bit helpful at least. Leave a like if you liked it, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you would like to see more of these controller reviews. Sometimes I'll post a random goofy video or whatever. Sometimes it'll be some sort of epic gamer meme or something, but probably behind the times. But anyway, thanks for watching, and go out and do some gaming or something. So have a good day, and goodbye.